Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Soul Goals. I'm Dawn, and as always, so glad you are joining us today. And I'm really excited to connect with this old soul friend of ours from our family, actually, from way before I hit the record button. What do we just say? Age 13, indoor volleyball?
13s. Yep.
Anna Kate was a great teammate to my older daughter, Amanda, back in the day in 13's age group,
Yeah.
indoor volleyball. And that's how we met. That's how our families met. And we've loosely followed one another through all of the ups and downs and the years of high school. Because after that year of playing together, I mean, you make friends on your team, but then you all fall away. But like you guys retained a nice friendship. Like you really connected.
Definitely all through middle school, all through high school. Amanda and your family was part of my life, so still is.
Oh, well, we love you guys. We love your mom, love your dad, love your sister. And I'm just so glad that your mom actually mentioned that, hey, I think Anna Kate might be willing to share her story. And I was like, yes, yes, I would love to have that. So I'm so pleased to have you on. Anna Kate is currently a senior beach volleyball player at Austin Peay University in Clarksville, right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. They are a Division I program. They play in the ASUN conference, and you are embarking on your last year of volleyball.
Yes. Yeah, last year I can't believe like how fast. Everyone says college flies by fast, but you have no idea until you're in it, I feel like. So, yeah, it's surreal that this is my last year, but
Right. What are your plans afterwards? I'm maybe skipping ahead of my question line here, but like, do you know what you want to do?
So I actually want to go to nursing school, which was kind of a change in my plans too. I'm a kinesiology major right now, so
Okay.
that's kind of like the study of the human body, study of exercise. But this summer, I just got the opportunity to shadow in a hospital, and I really felt called that was my next step. So applying to nursing schools right now. But yeah,
Wow, that's so great. Do you want to stay like in the Nashville area or do you want to expand out?
I would love that. I'm applying to Belmont. I'm applying to a couple Florida schools, FGCU. So we'll kind of see where I get in, but I'm open-minded.
Well, good for you. And I think as you grow through your collegiate experience and you mature, and along the way, we'll give your story, everything that you've gone through. You have to kind of just be open to the flow and grow through it to, go through it to grow through it is what they say,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
definitely.
Right. So there's my long introduction to Anna Kate Clark. Yay. Glad you're here. Are you, did you practice this morning or what did you have going on today?
So I did not. I grabbed coffee with my assistant coach, which was great. So Thursdays, we're in 8-hour weeks right now. So it's kind of my day to just catch up on school. I don't have practice or lifted or anything, but yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like for the listeners at home, when you say practice and lift, you're talking about like workouts and you're talking about like team practice, which
Yeah.
takes up a good chunk of your day when you are in those things.
It does. It does. So it's always nice to have that one off day in the off season, just to kind of catch up on life and get reset.
Right. And if you're applying to nursing school, like I'm sure you're utilizing this extra time to be able
Yes.
to go, oh,
Definitely. It's definitely been productive time. So writing
yes.
that. But yeah.
Well, good. So let's start back at what motivated you to actually play volleyball in the first place, because I think your story is interesting in the fact that you are a collegiate athlete, but your love for that game began early. I'm interested to know how that all started for you and when you really connected to, hey, I really enjoy this game. I really want to pursue this on a deeper level other than just playing for my school or playing travel.
Yeah. So I grew up kind of playing everything. I played soccer, I swam, I ran cross country, and I feel like I was really blessed with parents who they never like pushed me like you're going to play this sport or you're going to do this. They just kind of let my interest guide what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And so in 4th grade, I had a friend I did gymnastics with, and she started playing rec volleyball.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you've heard of A5 in Atlanta, but they're kind of like a big established club. And so I started playing rec volleyball there.
Okay.
And I used to, after our little rec practices, I would watch the 18s team play. And I was like, these girls are the coolest ever. Like, I really want to be like them one day.
Yeah.
So that kind of trickled into me starting to play for my middle school and then eventually playing club. But I was just in love with it after that point.
Yeah. So that was your first experiences with that rec
Yeah,
league?
rec team, just fall ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love the fact that you would go and watch and you're like, I wanna be that's what I wanna do. You were able to really see that.
Yeah, I really
No.
was. Yeah.
So
So
the rec league led into middle school ball, which then led into travel?
yeah, and I'd say what really prompted me to play travel in the first place was my middle school coach. It wasn't even something that was on my radar, but he was a travel coach before, and so he pulled me aside and said, "Look, if you really love volleyball, the way you get better is to get on a travel team." And so I
Yeah.
started doing lessons with him and taking it more serious, and realized it was something I wanted to pursue.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And so flash forward here to getting ready to graduate from high school,
Yeah.
and you've decided, "I wanna play the next level." But there's one big difference right here. You're not wearing shoes anymore.
No, not at all. So the transition to sand is kind of a crazy story because when I played travel at Alliance, they had indoor sand courts.
Yes.
I
I
know.
remember those. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so during the winter, they would sometimes have tournaments for fun.
Yeah.
And so I started just going. I had never heard of sand volleyball really. And I didn't like it at first. I thought it was the hardest thing ever. I didn't like how you couldn't jump in the sand.
Yeah.
But then we get to my junior year and I kind of just was a little bit burnt out of indoor and I wasn't
Mhm.
sure if I really was loving it the same as I was when I was younger. And
Right.
so what I did really love was being in the sand. And so
Okay.
I had the ability to start training with Hayden when he started a club and moved here. Um, and that's what really made me think that like sand was a path I could take. So
Yeah. Like a collegiate path that you could
yeah,
go to.
yeah.
Gosh, and that was your junior year when you finally kinda went, "This is what I wanna do?"
Yes. So my junior year, I didn't play club. So I played club my freshman and sophomore year. And
Mhm.
then junior year, I realized I think beach is what I want my path to be. So
Yeah. It's calling your name.
calling my name for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm interested to know, like, what made you switch? Like, what because you said, "I didn't like it at first. I didn't like different aspects of it." Like, what was, like, the click for you that went, I like this. It works for me."
I think this is gonna sound weird, but part of it was the fact I think I wasn't good at it. And so
Okay.
I had so much I had so much to learn. And
Yeah.
so just realizing that like if I kept practicing, like I saw those improvements of like my service receive got a little bit better and my
Yeah.
hits got a little bit better. And also the fact that like you never get subbed out. Like you're always on the court when you're playing beach
Yeah.
really was something that was unique to it. So yeah.
You have to do everything because there's
You have
only 2
to.
people.
Yeah. And it's like an indoor if I was having a tough serve receive day or I was an outside. So if I was couldn't hit the ball, like you could sub me out and put someone else in. But in the sand, you're really stuck if you're in that position.
Yes. Yeah, you gotta work it out. You gotta figure it out, don't
You
you?
do. You definitely do.
Golly,
Mhm.
there's no substitutes in sand.
Nope, none.
Man, 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 man. So, the recruiting process, give me
Mhm.
that one. Tell me a little bit about that because I think everybody's recruiting process is different, but they're all really so right with so much, life experience that I think you learn so much about yourself as a person through those big highs and those low lows.
Close. So I'd say the beach process was overwhelming in a lot of senses because I had never seen any girls before me really navigate that. And so
Mm,
I think for indoor, I was super comfortable because in my mind, I was like, I want to go to Lipscomb or Belmont or somewhere in Nashville and just play indoor. And that was kind of, I don't know, the path that I had planned out in my head. And then
yeah,
all of a sudden, when I came home to my mom and dad, and I was like, actually, I really want to play beach. They were like, that's great, but kind of how do we do this? Um,
yeah.
so
Uncharted territory,
uh,
basically.
yeah, uncharted territory. So I'd say for me, I just really started reaching out to whoever I knew how to sand program. and
Yeah, yeah.
I spent a lot of hours just at home, cutting film and on iMovie, like putting together highlights and sending them out. And I think it's hard because you get a lot of no's before you get yeses.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
something that was also a struggle for me as I reflect on that is kind of the comparison of it. Like you see
Mhm.
girls in your class who commit super early, or there's girls in your class who wait to commit. And the achiever part of me was kind of like, am I on time? Like, am I making the right decision? Um,
Yeah.
but actually, before I committed to Arizona Christian University, which was where I was my first 2 years, I was committed to Liberty,
Yeah.
which at the time was just a club program. And I was really thinking nursing, like this is my main thing that I want to focus on.
Mhm.
And then I started having kind of second thoughts about Liberty because I love the school, I love the coach, but I felt like it was almost going to be too much like my hometown and too much like what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And so when I had that feeling, I opened my email one day and I had an email from Coach Sarah at ACU. And she said, "Hey, I saw your film and I would love for you to just come out here and tour and come see what you think." Um,
Oh,
so I went upstairs and I told my dad, I said, "Hey, there's this coach from Arizona who wants to talk to me." And my parents were kind of like, aren't we having a plan of where we're going, you know?
right, right.
But they knew it was something I was super interested in. And so 2 days later, we hopped on a plane and we
That was
went to
fast.
Arizona, very fast timeline. And I just had this piece when I was there, like, this is my next step. This is where I'm supposed to be. So,
Yeah. I think it's so interesting to hear you say all that because it kind of bears saying like the episode previous with Amanda with my daughter and talking about her recruiting process too, is that you make all these plans that are best laid plans. And I think it's so important to do that because otherwise you have no direction. You have to have some framework, right?
mhm,
But I think you have to have that openness to whatever is meant to come to you and really what belongs to you in your divine order, if you will, like in what God's mission and what his path really is, and
yeah.
try to keep all that other noise out. And I think it's interesting that you bring up that comparison
Mhm,
about people recruiting, some like right away, some not, some later, and you're thinking, where am I on that continuum timeline? And
mhm,
am I doing it right? What really is right? Like, how do you know that? How do you trust and really dive into like cut that noise out
yeah.
and just be in your path and in your process? Like, tell me a little bit about, did you ever get to that point? Or was it that maybe it was the turning point of going to Arizona and really feeling that peace you talked about to get to that point for you?
Yeah, I think everybody describes like when they decide on a school that feeling.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to explain it other than every single plan I had for myself, it kind of like didn't work out like that. And I'm so thankful for that looking back because like I said, I had reached out to so many schools, and
Yeah.
a lot of those schools that I wanted to go to, it ended up falling through and not working. And here in my email is this school that wasn't even on my radar, and this school that I hadn't even like heard of. And so
Right.
my biggest piece of advice would be just keep open minded. Like if you're at a showcase or something like that, you never know what coach is watching or what
Yes.
school is there that you might not have even looked into. Um,
Yes.
because sometimes that's your place and that's where you need to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm,
So you described going to Arizona with your family,
mhm.
feeling that peace and being like, I like this is it. Did you commit right then when you were there?
So I actually didn't because at the time I had already said that I was coming to Liberty. And so
Okay.
I had told Coach Sarah at ACU, I said, let me go home and think about this and pray about this.
Mhm.
And so I took that week, and the scariest phone call of my life was
Mm.
calling the Liberty coach and letting him know that I had changed my mind and that I was going to go to ACU instead. But thankfully he was of faith. And so he was very understanding, and he was like, look, if you feel like the Lord is pulling you somewhere else, you need to say yes to that opportunity. Um,
Yeah.
so everything that I was anxious about really worked out okay and turned out smoothly. So yeah.
Yeah, isn't that so funny? The anxiousness that we have in our life is so intriguing to me because it's just so ego driven and we all operate out of our ego. Like we all
We
do.
all do.
Because yeah, we want to have our best laid plans and we want to know what's going to happen. We're creatures of habit. We
Hmm.
want to know that it's the A is going to happen, then B is going to happen, then C is going to happen
Yeah.
without any of those little markers in between, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think too, once you committed, did you feel like, all right, I can breathe. I don't
Yeah.
feel so heavy with all of this burden?
I did feel like that at first. I will say, like, I felt really relieved of like
Mhm.
it had always been a dream. I told my parents one time, I said, I'm gonna play volleyball in California one day. And they're like,
Okay.
okay, like that's cool.
Okay.
But going to Arizona, like, it was kind of a dream becoming a reality because I was like, we are going to play California schools and I am going to get to do these things that like I've pictured in my mind. Um,
Yes.
so I was kind of on cloud nine there for a little bit, super excited. I'd say when the anxiety set in a little bit was as I got closer to graduating and I realized I'm the only person from my school going to this school and I don't know anyone. And it's a 4-hour flight from home. And
Mm,
it really did hit me the end of my senior year, like how I felt like a lack of peace because I was so scared of the unknown. Um,
yes.
so yeah, there was good days and bad days after I decided.
Right. Tell me about you going there then, in light of what you just explained.
hmm So going there was my parents helped move me in. And so kind of that transition there, same thing. I was super excited. I will never forget. I had a moment the Sunday after my parents like left where it was just me in my dorm room. I think my roommate had went out somewhere. And I sat on the bed and I just cried and I was like, I'm really
Oh,
like here alone like across the country and it's kind of an overwhelming feeling and
yeah.
all the people who are far from home in college understand that. Um,
Yes.
but I'm so thankful for that moment too, because it's really what prompted me to reach out to my teammates because all these girls on my team were also like, I had a girl from Hawaii on my team and a girl from
Oh,
Iowa. So they're also so far from home.
yeah.
And I was able to like go meet with them and go do things with them.
Mhm.
And so without that feeling, I would have never had the sort of tight knit relationships I made my freshman year. So
Yeah, and it's a choice.
yeah,
You had to feel your feelings, and you had
yes,
to
I
go
did.
through that to
Mhm.
get to that point of reference in your brain where you go, "All right, I have a choice. I can either continue to sit here or I can embrace this process and do everything that I possibly can to find my community, to reach out to my community."
Yeah.
And, I think that's really vital for you too, because as your story progresses, community becomes a really big part for you, whether it's family, whether it's friends. So you tell me you spent 2 years at Arizona Christian, and
Yes.
then you decided to transfer and come back home a little
Yep.
closer, and to play at Austin Peay. So
Mhm.
give me a little bit of that midsection, what that involved in terms of your choice and what your why was behind leaving Arizona after 2 years there.
Yeah, so I think it's not often that somebody leaves a school when they're kind of like content with their experience. But
Yeah.
I had gotten to the end of my sophomore year and really had a great 2 years. I got to play, which I was thankful for my freshman and sophomore year. And we were playing big time schools and I was traveling and kind of living my best life. But
Yeah.
I had this feeling when sophomore season concluded that again I didn't feel at peace and I
Mhm.
felt like God was telling me like this is the end of a chapter and like you've done great things at Arizona but I don't want you in Arizona anymore. And
Okay.
I couldn't shake that feeling. And I'm a big journaler, so I journaled about it a lot. And again, I was in this position where I was like I need to have a conversation with my coach and tell her where I'm at.
Yeah.
And luckily she was super understanding and my main reasons were again I felt like I was being pulled back to nursing school
Yeah.
and I also felt like I needed to be closer to home. um I think being that far from home can take a toll. Like I loved it and I had made community but I also was like I wish I could come home on the weekends sometimes and I
Yeah.
miss family super important to me and I felt like I was missing that community a little bit.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it was pretty scary telling her that I thought I wasn't going to come back, but I also didn't really have a plan. Like I didn't really know where I was going. So I was
Yes.
saying that without having any sort of idea.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like what you were talking about it before, like, that's a big deal because you're a planner.
Huge planner. That was probably the scariest moment after I had that conversation with her and was
Mhm.
like, well, I've got some film to send because I don't have
Mhm.
anywhere to go. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Alright, so how did you land at Austin Peay?
So as soon as I made that decision for myself, I started sending film out to coaches. I wasn't actually even so ACU is an NAIA school, so I wasn't even in the portal, which is
Okay.
crazy. I
Yeah.
was just reaching out to coaches. Again, got a lot of no's, got a few phone calls. But the one that stood out to me was I got an email from the Austin P coach, and he
Okay.
said, "Hey, let me know what tournaments you're going to play this summer, and I'll come watch you."
Okay.
It's so funny because whole time my mom always loved Austin Peay. And it wasn't ever on my radar because I wanted to leave Tennessee. Like I didn't plan on coming back.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty excited about that. And he was able to come watch me play. And the next day he called me on the phone and said he had one more spot on his roster and offered me. So
Oh, I just got chills.
yeah,
Like,
it was really cool.
yeah, because that wasn't you had no plan for that. It
No,
just
no plan to go to Austin Peay at all. Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit about that anxiety that you were talking about earlier and how that plays through your experience and what that did for you because you are a huge proponent for mental health awareness within athletics and within college sports, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a little
Mhm.
bit about your background and how that became something you felt compelled to dive into, that you felt there was a need for you to explore and to understand a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the first time I ever really had to deal with my anxiety, I think I've always been a naturally anxious person, was my freshman season of
Okay.
college. And thankfully, the person who really inspired me, her name's Coach P. She was my assistant coach, and she had a background in sports psychology. And so we had meetings as a team
Mhm.
about like mental health and the importance of mental health on performance. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I had always kept the two separate. I was like, well, I'm anxious, but that doesn't have anything to do with volleyball. Turns
Yeah.
out it has everything to do with volleyball.
It's got
And
everything.
so it has
Yes.
everything to do with it. And so she was the first person I think I felt comfortable speaking up when I was struggling.
Yeah.
The freshman year was definitely a battle for me because I struggled hard with not putting my identity and who I am in my performance. And so
Mhm.
I took it so personally whenever I had a bad game or a bad day, and that really affected my confidence and my self esteem and how I felt about myself. Um,
Yes.
but she really worked with me to speak up about those feelings, and speaking up about me feeling that way was the only way it started to get better. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you have to verbalize it and you have to bring it out of its shell.
yeah, you have to. And also, the more you talk about it, the more you realize the girl beside you is probably dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
And when you're bold enough and vulnerable enough to speak up, it makes other girls on your team comfortable too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you started bringing that kind of out of the box,
Yeah.
what was your experience? Did you feel better? Was it or what like I'm sure there probably were hard points that were like, "Oh my god, this is challenging. I thought this was gonna be easier once I started speaking about my anxiety and working through it."
Yeah. So actually, the first time I think I ever really spoke about it, I didn't want to, which is funny. So my assistant
Okay.
coach, I don't even remember the circumstances of what happened, but there was one game and I was not having a great day. And so I got pulled out of the lineup, and I got really emotional about that. Like I thought I was, not a good athlete. All these
Mhm.
self-doubt questions
Mhm.
start to flood in when in
Yeah.
reality it wasn't personal. And
Yeah.
after that day, I kind of had a breakdown, and I felt like I'm not supposed to be here. Like, what am I doing? And I was in the car driving to get food, trying to take my mind off of it. And Coach P, my assistant coach, called me, and she was like, "We need to talk because I can tell that something's up with you, and that you're wearing your emotions on your sleeve, and like you have stuff that you're not expressing, and you're bottling that up." And
Mm.
I cried on the phone with her, and I told her like, "Thank you for noticing that, and
Yeah.
you're so right. Like, I do need to deal with that."
Mhm.
And after that conversation, I really felt a weight off my shoulders, and I felt like I was able to show up to practice and play freely.
Yeah.
And if I had a bad day, I could honestly laugh about it sometimes, and it wasn't the end of the
Yeah.
world. So,
Yeah, what a gift she gave
what a
you.
gift. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me how that experience has translated now that you're in a different program.
Ooh, that's a great question. I think I try my best to be the person on the team who's not scared to start hard conversations. And
Okay.
so if I see a teammate who's struggling, or if I'm struggling myself, I think that I do my best to bring it up. And it doesn't have to
Mhm.
be in front of other people, but if you see a girl on your team who doesn't seem like she's herself, just pulling her aside and being like, "Hey, like, do you need to talk?" Or like, "Is everything okay?" Or, "I
Mhm.
noticed you." And just being that person to see other people um,
Yeah.
goes a long way. Because I think sometimes I wish I had someone who did that for me. Because
Right.
sometimes when you're the girl on the court who's always smiling and always goofing off, people don't think, "Oh, maybe she's having a hard day, or maybe she's going through something." But
Mhm.
sometimes those are the girls who need, a hug or encouragement the most.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, mic drop moment right there by Annie Kate. Because but without those challenges, you would not have been nearly as self-aware about what that looks like for you and what you need. I think
Mhm.
that being able to express what it is that you need and what's going on with you and being in that vulnerable space, like you said, it doesn't have to be in front of a big group of
No.
people, but it's about speaking out about it
Mhm.
and giving giving a space for it to unbottle. and
Yeah.
uncork it. So, because like, what happens when you carry it around? Like, what's been your experience when you haven't done that?
Oh, it just it affects life outside of volleyball too. And I think when I am have unresolved emotions I'm dealing with, volleyball is no longer my outlet. Volleyball is a place that stresses me out. And so
Okay.
if I am not taking care of myself mentally, then volleyball is a burden instead of an enjoyment. And when I am in a good space mentally, like volleyball is my happy place. So I
Yeah.
think doing everything you can to protect what volleyball is for you and why volleyball matters for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important because that will translate to your job, your
Everything.
family, um, your the things that you develop, the habits and the hobbies and such that you develop when you're outside of school, when you're finally a nurse and you're practicing. There's so many things that that translates into. And I think we talk a lot about how sports translates into life and what we do with those lessons that we learn. But what has been your lowest point when you experienced either really deep sadness or anxiety or just upheaval for yourself?
Yeah. Actually, I'd say my lowest point, this is interesting, was actually this summer and the spring before going into college. And
Okay.
I touched on that a little bit, but I think that anxiety that I was feeling trickled into depression a little bit for the first time in my life. And I
Mhm.
think that I didn't have the tools to tell other people how I was feeling. And I felt like I was always the person listening to others' feelings, and I didn't know how to find the words to that. And I think it got to the point where I wasn't I wasn't enjoying school and I wasn't enjoying showing up to volleyball, and I felt this like sense of hopelessness, but I didn't know how to say that to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think thankfully my parents noticed finally, and I was able to have a conversation with them, and they were like, we think that therapy might be something that's good for you and might be something that helped. And to me, I was like, absolutely not. Like therapy, like that's crazy.
Wow.
I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
But they were like, we want you to try that because you're about to go across the country and it's important to take care of your mental health.
Yeah.
And therapy changed my life. Like, I
Yeah.
think it saved my life, and it is something that I recommend for anyone who's really going through a hard time
Right.
or um, just a season of sadness and loneliness.
Mhm.
It really showed me that you're not alone ever, and those are normal human emotions to feel, and everyone feels like that at some point. Um,
Yeah.
but sometimes just talking to someone else gets you out of your own head. And
Yeah,
so I was
absolutely.
able to be told by someone else like these thoughts and feelings that you're not enough or that you can't do this, like that is not truth and that is not who you are as a person. So
Yeah, and I think too, what do you feel about the stigma of addressing mental health? Because I think
yeah.
we're kind of branching out now, and it's a lot more open to have these conversations and to be vulnerable to say, "This is what's going on with me," or to have that self-awareness where you feel comfortable reaching out to somebody and saying, "Hey, you don't look like yourself today. Is there
Mhm.
anything going on that I can help you with?"
Yeah, I think as an athlete, we're taught so much about determination and mental toughness and how like I saw struggling almost as a weakness and like
Oh, wow.
something that I should be embarrassed about a little bit. And I think that's why I struggled so badly expressing my emotions is
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be seen as a quitter or as someone who gave up. But what I learned, especially going to therapy, is that working through those emotions takes strength. Like
Mm,
speaking up takes a lot of courage. And
yeah.
so the people who are speaking
Mm.
up and the people who are taking care of themselves, like that is courageous and that is what real I think athletes do. So,
Right,
yeah.
and you're right, the bottom line is it's extremely courageous because it's something that is so inherently important, but when you neglect that part of yourself, then you're just not yourself for what your gift is to the community as a whole, and I'm not just talking volleyball, I'm talking about what you as a person, you as Anna Kate, a being,
Mhm.
brings to the world,
Yeah.
and the relevance of who you are and what you not what you do, but who you are,
Mhm.
if
And
you
I
will.
think even something that was difficult for me is realizing that even happy people struggle. And I was like,
Oh,
well,
wow, yeah.
I had this feeling, I think, that my life was so good and I was so blessed and I was going to play college volleyball and I
Mhm.
had good grades. And from the outside looking in, everything looked like it was great and perfect. But
Yeah,
inside, I was really anxious and I was really a mess and there was a lot of things I hadn't worked through.
yeah,
Um, so just understanding that like those two can exist. You can have a great life and great blessings, but still feel like things aren't right. And that's okay.
I love that point. That's so important. It's such a great one. We are made to have those emotional experiences,
Yeah.
and struggling even when you are happy or when you're a positive person. Positive people still have negative experiences. It's
Definitely.
that perspective, and it's that understanding that we have to deal with what's in front of us. We
Hmm.
can wallow and feel kind of cruddy for a little bit. I mean, I could tell you more than 5,000 hands, all the ups and downs in my life and the things that am I like, oh my, whoa, woe is me. But until you realize that it's okay to have those struggles. And I love what you said about, um, here you were feeling like I'm a very blessed person. I
Hmm.
have a loving family. I have a great home. I'm well taken care of. I'm not supposed to struggle. I'm supposed to be the one with the happy face. And I'm supposed to help take care of others, but you can't take care of others unless you're taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't pour from a cup that you're not filling. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you do now to help fill your cup? Do you still do therapy and just still follow through with all
So
of those
I
tools?
haven't. I kind of stopped doing therapy when I felt like I was in a good place. But like I said, I'm all for it. So if I was ever struggling again, I would use that as a resource. Something that has helped me all of college is journaling. So I was
Mm,
never a consistent journaler in high school. But that first night in college, when I felt a little overwhelmed, I had this little spiral notebook that I got from Target, and
yeah.
I journaled in that thing consistently that whole year, and I have journals full from all 4 years of college. Um,
Wow.
Something I think I love about journaling is that I'm able to like open my journal to 3 months ago if I'm having a hard day and see that I was having a hard day then, but I got through it. And so
Yeah.
I that's the biggest thing for me is it makes you proud of yourself and proud of how far you've come. And
Mhm.
even on the days you feel like, oh, this sucks and this is hard, you
Mhm.
can look back and be like, I'm capable and I can
Yeah.
do this. So
I love that. I was actually before you even said that, I was gonna ask you, do you ever look back
yeah, all
and
the time.
go, "Wow."
Yeah, all the time, and I think that, um, I it's kinda surreal, like, the experience I'm living right now because it's something that I prayed about and I journaled about, like, 3 years ago. Like, I always wanted to play at the Division I level, and, I didn't know what that would look like,
Yeah.
and like I said, I couldn't have planned how I got here myself, but I think a big part of that, honestly, was self-reflection and the ability to look at how far I'd come and where I wanted to go.
Yes, that self-reflection coupled with that almost like a visualization. It's
Yeah.
like, "I gotta get this out of me, and I'm gonna put it down on paper because this is what's important to me, and this is what
Mhm.
I'm feeling," and you have 0 expectations about how it's gonna happen. You
Yeah.
just know that this is your drive, this is your passion, and this is your desire,
Mhm.
and if you keep I really feel like if you keep that stuff bottled up inside of you, it just creates, a really interesting little tornado that you end up second guessing yourself on everything,
Everything.
everything. And then you're like, okay, what end is up? What really matters? Who am I? What am I really feeling? And it
Yeah,
just puts you in a whole tailspin.
definitely. And something like I don't think people realize either, or I didn't realize, is that a lot of life happens between 18 and 21. And so a lot of these like emotions and experiences you're having, like they're pivotal parts of your life. And so I'm thankful that I had that as a tool to kind of remember like all those things. And hopefully, when somebody else comes to me and they're like, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, I can say, look, I could tell you exactly when I was going through that, and here's how I got through it. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like a nice little earmark, but I think too it bears saying that you
Mhm.
are not going back into those chapters, if you
No.
will, and, like, reliving them. It's just there for your perspective basis, and I think that's a really big tool that a lot of us can walk away with from this conversation and say, "Okay, it really gives me credence to know that I went through this. I can overcome this. This is when I did it. This is how that looked, and it doesn't have to own me because it's out of me."
Yeah, it doesn't have to be your story forever. And I
Oh,
think
I
that
love that.
thank you. Thank you. I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of things that we walk through in life, and if we don't deal with those issues, we keep walking through them. And I don't
Mm,
think I'm big on faith. I don't think that's God's design for us. Like I don't think his design is for us to struggle in a cycle with the same things.
amen.
And so journaling too has helped me with that of you can't get over anything unless you're willing to sit there and talk about it and work through it. So
Yeah, you gotta go through it to grow through it.
love that. Love that.
Yeah, and it doesn't go away until you do. It just comes back in a really different, funnier looking version that is probably more complex when you
Yeah.
haven't dealt with it. So I think that's our hard part about it is realizing that it's not going to go away. You have to move through it. You have to make conscious choice and use the tools that you are at your disposal. And if you don't have those tools, you have to ask for other people's input and what that looks like and what that means to you and finding what it is that actually connects with you. So you
Mhm.
said journaling. Is there any other tools that you use to help with anxiety and any kind of mental awareness and self-awareness for you?
Yeah, so I'd say journaling. I'd also to add to that, one of my best friends, I told her about journaling. Her name's Amaya, but she's not a big journaler, and so what she does is types in her notes. So I'm like, anything that gets your thoughts out of your mind, I think is healthy.
Mhm.
Another thing too is just finding what I like outside of volleyball. Like
Oh, yeah.
I love to cook. So I've been
Yeah.
trying to teach myself how to cook and like bake and new recipes. Um, I love to just like hang out with my friends. And so whether that's taking time to go for a hike or go on an adventure or take a little road trip to Nashville or whatever that is, um, those are two of the things like that you remember about college. So I feel like
Mhm.
I have been super big on making memories outside of volleyball.
Mhm.
And that I'm forever grateful for because I have so many cool memories from Arizona of like hikes and just like things I did with my teammates that have nothing to do with volleyball. And
Right?
because of that, like I have gained lifelong friends. Like I
Oh,
talk to those girls once a week, if not more. And
yeah.
we kind of have a new team this year, so I'm still in the process of like getting to know those girls.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've tried to make that an emphasis, like, let's go do something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's about doing more so that you can learn more about what matters to you, what you connect with as a person, growing as a person, and
Yeah,
things that you enjoy.
definitely.
And it's been so interesting to me because last week's episode was with my daughter,
Mhm.
like talked about her college experience. And I feel like you're like my second daughter. Here we go. It was like, or my third daughter, I should
Yeah.
say. And like having this seemed really interesting conversation about you have total different experiences, but yet the same
Yeah.
because you are going through this 18 to 21 period of life, learning so much, growing so much, and having opportunities to go this direction or this direction.
Mhm.
When tell me a little bit about what you feel in terms of going one direction versus another. Do you have difficulty? Like, does your mindset get in the way of figuring out, all right, I really should do this. I really should do that. This is, or are you with the life that you have lived in the
Mhm.
last 3.5-ish or so years now, learning a little bit more about self-awareness, what anxiety and depression does for you and how that affects you. Do you feel more kind of steadfast in your this is what I need to do?
Yeah, I would say, especially as a senior, I feel that more than ever, which I'm grateful for. But
Mhm.
I'd say, especially my freshman year, and my advice to all the girls and guys going into college would just be make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the sense of you want to be rested and you don't want to feel like you're burnout. And so, freshman year, I think there was times I felt burnout a lot because I was trying to go to volleyball and live the life of a normal college student. Like I was trying to say yes to every opportunity that came my way and there
Right.
was no me time and no rest time and my rest days were filled with activity. um
Mm.
so now I think as a senior I've kind of had to find that balance of if I'm having a tough week and struggling a little bit, maybe I need a night to just be by myself and watch a movie, and
Yeah.
maybe my social battery's a little dead, but also making sure that I'm not isolated, I'm still doing things with community. um
Right.
but you don't have to say yes to every opportunity. You can say yes to some and skip out on others. So
Yeah, and find what works for you, and that's a really fine line, I think, for a lot of people too, that difference between, isolating versus self-care,
yeah.
and knowing when you're crossing over into a really dangerous space.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that isolation thing?
I think a little bit my freshman year.
Mhm.
And I also think in a way that helped me a little bit because my own friends noticed it because I was always that person who was like, let's go do this, let's go do this.
Yeah.
They're kind of like our you okay? Like, you're
Oh,
not seeming
no.
like you want to do these things.
Mhm.
So yeah, I definitely experienced that. But I will say, ironically, the only thing that helped me get out of that was my friends coming to my dorm and being like, let's get up. We're going to brunch. Like, we're going to go do something.
Oh,
Um,
great.
and so I'm forever grateful to have those friends who kind of pulled me out of my room when I didn't want to be doing stuff.
Yeah, the ones that you can really lean on and the
Yeah,
ones that are those lifelong friends that will be at your wedding one day and at
definitely.
your kids' birthdays one day,
Yeah.
and all of those wonderful things that you're gonna
Mhm.
have. Yeah. Tell me how you feel now broaching the last season that you'll ever play volleyball.
Man, it's bittersweet. That's how I would describe it if I could use one word. Um, I feel like I'm at a place where as an athlete you work so hard to kind of get to this point.
Mhm.
There's so many practices and so many hours and training over the summer. And I think I've just been reminded just to enjoy what I've worked hard for. And so I'm trying to enjoy all my lasts. Like, it's weird because
Oh,
like I was like, this is my last first home football game this weekend, and just all these little
oh my.
small moments. I'm trying to just be present.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a balance. Like, I'm trying to be present, but also think about what's next.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
I think
Talk
I'm
about a
excited.
balance.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for what a new chapter of my life is like without volleyball, but volleyball is part of my life. So
Right, and it's not like you will never pick up a ball again, but
no,
I maybe I should have said like that organized sport that you've been a part of in that capacity for so many years.
yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around too, because you think about your routine and you're like, my whole day revolves around my team and revolves around my sport.
Mm,
So even just talking to my assistant coach today, like, she just graduated recently and she was telling me how she like just joined a gym. And so like something like that, like, I feel like because I've been on a team before, I'm excited to find new ways I can find community.
yeah. Yeah,
So
like new routines
yeah,
and
new routine.
new patterns and
Mhm.
new things, and I think the cool thing that I've been able to glean from you today is that progress that you've made on that self-awareness and that understanding about what works for you, what doesn't work for you, but in a really healthy way where you're not afraid to ask for help if you need it
So
and encourage other people to do the same.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. What's been the biggest blessing of all of this time of the struggle from before you went to college when you started feeling that anxiousness and that depression kind of kick into this point now where you're like, I'm now looking at something completely different in another 9 or 10 months?
Yeah, I think so. The biggest thing I was scared about going into college was friendships and relationships and community. And
Uh,
the biggest thing I've gained from college, like, I had no idea how much these girls were going to impact my life,
yeah.
and how much they were going to really be key people in my life that I do
Mhm.
life with. So I just think that, like, it's super cool to see, like, my friends who have graduated who are older than me, like, some of them are getting married and some of them are like
Oh,
entering PA school and grad school, and some of them are still playing volleyball. But it's just really neat to be like, we will always have that chapter of life together. Like, I will have always
yes.
remembered being your partner and being next to you on the court, but now I get to see you use like other passions in your life. So
Yes.
that is something like a team has given to me that's been the biggest blessing.
Yeah,
So
you'll always have that tie. You'll
always,
always be tied together.
yeah, yeah, love it or hate it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No,
But
I think it's awesome, and I
yeah,
think you have to say love it or hate it because there's not it's not all wine and roses, you
no,
know?
no.
Like
And it's also like you walk through some hard things with those girls too. Like, people don't always get along, and we're
yeah.
girls, so there's lots of emotions going on,
Mhm.
but there's
And
not
you're
many.
all A-type personalities if you're a
Oh,
college athlete. I'm
oh,
telling you, you're all dealing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's taught me too, like, just so many communication skills of like,
Mhm.
I can have a conversation with the girl and we can still be friends at the end of the day, even if I'm frustrated in the moment, you know?
Right.
So yeah.
Right, and yeah, I don't know that you would have gotten that to that space as quickly. You would
Mhm.
definitely get there at some point, but I don't think you would have gotten there as quickly if you didn't have that whole experience that has
No,
tied you guys all together.
not at all. Like, in sports, that's one thing, is you got to confront stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
not a natural confronter.
Yeah,
And
you're not.
I'm not at all. And I've gotten better at it though, because sports has been an outlet for me to learn how to do that in a healthy way.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the anxiety piece that you talked about has been another really big thing that's like, I push pause button, I gotta deal with this because if I don't, it's just going to compound and make things even worse. And I will not be able to enjoy this thing that gives me this love and gives me this feeling of freedom and gives me this really big passion for life. And it's something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. And I heard a quote that was talking about how the Lord has walked behind me, the Lord has walked before me, and the Lord is walking with me. And I try to tell myself that in the mornings when I'm feeling a little bit anxious of, oh gosh, I have a long day ahead of me, because it reminds me that whatever I'm about to face, like, God already knows. And so there's no reason to be anxious about it, because it's going to be okay.
I got a total other chill there. That's perfect. Yes. Yes. I think we lose sight of that in our anxiousness, and that crazy mind that gets going, and we think, oh my God, I'm by myself. I'm in it. I don't know what to do. And we get so wrapped up in that ego emotion that we forget that God is really beside us. If we just reach out, he's right there.
Yeah. Always. Always.
Oh, Anna Kate, you're so delightful. I so love talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I let you go, I want to do some rapid fire questions.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
This is kind of fun. I just like have some fun with it, because I feel like by the time you get to these end of these interviews, most people know pretty much your personality and kind of who you are and what your makeup is. But I always find that, finding that other silly side or that other funny question side of the guest is so intriguing. It is for me. I've learned so much about people that I've known for a long time. And I'm like, oh, I would have never guessed. So, all right. Rapid fire question, Anna Kate. Number 1, what is your favorite dessert?
Okay. I love chocolate chip cookies, but
oh, hey, I make the best ones. I'm going to make you some.
Okay. I will definitely.
Not kidding. I'm sending them to you.
I don't like Chips Ahoy, like crunchy. Like, they got to be a little soft in the middle. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You'll love my cookies.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm totally. You think I'm lying? I'll see you at some point. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come to one of your games this season when you're local.
I would love that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to bring a box of cookies, and you're just going to be like, "What is happening?"
It's going to make my day. I already know. Thank you.
All right, that's planning. I'm putting it on my calendar. Yeah. Yes. All right. Question number 2: where do you prefer to go when you go on a first date with someone?
Okay. This is a hard one. So I'm a big outdoors person. So I think a picnic would be so fun, or a walk, just something like that. I like to be out in the sunshine. So
yeah, just something sweet, something easy, but I love that, the outdoors. All right. So if Anna Kate's potential suitor is here,
yeah. Oh yeah.
This is what she likes, because you are not currently dating anybody, correct?
I'm not. I am single.
So. Okay. Yeah. All right. We're putting it out there. There you go. All right. All right. Question number 3. Would you ever skydive? Maybe you have.
I have not. Okay. I think I would, but I would truly have to be peer pressured into it. I would ever sign up on my own. But maybe if a friend or my sister wanted to, I'd do it.
Okay. Or maybe one of your teammates that you feel like.
Shoot, they would probably get me to do that. Definitely. So.
Oh my gosh. I've often wondered that about myself. I know my husband is like that. He's that total adventurous person. And I think my older daughter, since she's gone through college and where she's at now, would be like, hey, let's go.
Jump out of a plane tomorrow. Maybe Amanda and I together. Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait to tell them that. All right. Question number 4. What phrase or keywords do you find yourself typing, texting, emailing the most?
I use LOL a lot, all the time. And sometimes just lowercase LOL.
Yeah. It's just a funny little haha.
It is. Haha.
I totally got hand popped by my daughter, my younger daughter, when she was little, when she was really thought she was something. You go through these phases as a girl. And I can say this to you because I've got 2 girls and you're a girl. You'll totally understand. It's I'm too cool for school. You need your mom. Then you're I'm too cool for school. And then you come back to your mom when you're late in high school and into college, and you're it's all different. But during those places where my younger one was like, I don't need you. I'm too cool for school. She was like, she looked at my phone. She's like, why are you texting LOL? It's so old. And I was like,
we can't, moms can't use LOL too.
Yeah, we all can use LOL. And I think LOL is never going away. Just saying.
Never.
This is proof.
Yeah.
Yes. And you are a cool cat. So I'm going to say LOL all day.
Oh yeah. You got it.
All right. I got one more for you. This is a little bit deeper. but I like posing a little bit deeper, thought-provoking things, and you've given us some really great food for
Thank
thought
you.
for this
Yeah.
talk, so I appreciate that. But
Mhm.
I'd love to know where you are now. What makes you the most hopeful?
So I'd say what keeps me grounded, makes me the most hopeful is truly my faith. That
Mm,
is the one thing that's consistent. Life has changed a whole lot for me in 4 years. Um, and God has always been there.
yes.
Um, so I think that and being involved in Christian community has been huge. We have FCA at my school, which I
Yeah.
know you already talked about. And then we also have this thing called the Gathering, which is like young adult group where it's just community. So finding places to get plugged in with like-minded people has been huge.
Yes, and it does create that circle of hope because 'cause you're with other people that are experiencing the same thing and are coming together to have that same common experience.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Anna Kate, I'm so glad to talk to you today and to, like, hear all of the stuff that you've traversed for the last 4 years and to hear where you're headed to. I mean, nursing school is gonna be amazing for
I'm
you.
excited. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for having me again. It's been a joy
Yeah.
and awesome. So,
Oh, I've loved every moment of it, and don't you think for a moment that I'm forgetting about that cookie
oh,
situation.
I won't. I'll remember.
Yes, and I'm coming when as soon as your schedule's released, either your mom will let me know what that is, or I'll just look online and figure it out, and
Sounds
I'm
good.
gonna plan a date, and I'm bringing them.
All right. Thank you, Miss Dawn.
You are welcome, Anna Kate. I hope you have a wonderful day, great rest of your week as well, okay?
You too. You too.
Thank you.